The first drop of cabernet hit my white silk gown like a physical slap. My sister Bianca stood there with a fake apology frozen on her face, while 200 guests watched in horror. Then the silence broke. My parents stood up and clapped, laughing as if my humiliation was the entertainment they had paid for. Standing in that stained dress, I realized something simple. They did not just ruin my wedding, they declared war. My name is Scarlett Ross, and I am standing at the altar of the old stone church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, watching my life dissolve into a nightmare that feels entirely too orchestrated to be real. The air inside the sanctuary is cool, smelling of beeswax candles and the heavy, cloying scent of $3,000 worth of white lilies. Sunlight filters through the stained glass, painting the dust motes in shades of cobalt and gold. Beside me, Evan Keller looks perfect in his charcoal tuxedo, his hand warm and steady against mine. For a moment, just a fleeting heartbeat of a moment, I allow myself to believe that the curse of the Ross family has stopped at the heavy oak doors at the back of the nave. I let myself believe that today is actually about us. The priest, Father Mulligan, clears his throat to begin the invocation. The organ notes fade into a respectful silence. It is the kind of silence you pay for, the kind of silence that demands reverence. Then, I hear the click of heels on marble. It is not the rhythmic, procedural click of a designated reader approaching the lectern. It is sharp, erratic, and far too close. I turn my head slightly, my veil brushing against my bare shoulders. My sister, Bianca, is standing right there. She is supposed to be 3 steps behind me, holding my bouquet, looking demure in the dusty rose bridesmaid dress I paid for. Instead, she is stepping into the sacred space between Evan and me. In her hand, she is not holding flowers. She is holding a large crystal goblet filled to the brim with dark liquid. Time seems to warp, stretching out like taffy. I see the smirk before I see the stumble. It is a microscopic twitch of her lips, a tightening of the muscles around her eyes that I know better than my own reflection. She locks eyes with me, and in that split second, the communication is clear. Happy wedding day, Scarlett. Oh, she cries out, a theatrical, high-pitched sound that bounces off the vaulted ceiling. She lunges forward. The glass does not slip from her fingers. She propels it. The liquid hits me with the force of a physical slap. It is cold and heavy. It splashes against my sternum and cascades down. An instant. Violent bloom of deep red spreading across the white silk of my bodice. The stain moves fast, soaking into the delicate lace, running in rivulets down the skirt, dripping onto the pristine white runner beneath my feet. The smell of Cabernet Sauvignon hits me instantly, pungent, alcoholic, and sharp. A collective gasp sucks the air out of the room. 200 guests inhale at once. The sound is like a sudden draft. Then, there is absolute, tomb-like silence. I stand frozen. The wet silk clings to my skin, cold and sticky. I look down at the ruin of my dress. This gown was not just a piece of clothing. It was architectural perfection, a symbol of the one thing I wanted to keep pure. Away from the grime of my family dynamics, now, it looks like a crime scene. Bianca stands there with her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide in a pantomime of shock. "Oh my God," she says, her voice trembling with a rehearsed vibrato. "Scarlett, I am so clumsy. I tripped on the runner." I look at the floor. The runner is perfectly flat. I wait for the horror to set in. I wait for my mother to rush forward with a handkerchief, for my father to look appalled at his golden child's clumsiness. I wait for the normal human reaction to a disaster of this magnitude. Instead, a sound cuts through the silence. Clap, clap, clap. It is slow, rhythmic, and booming. I turn my head toward the front pew. My father, Mark, is standing up. He is not rushing to help. He is applauding. His face is flushed, a wide, open-mouthed grin stretching across his features. Beside him, my mother, Diane, rises too. She is laughing, It is a light, tinkling laugh, the kind she uses at cocktail parties when someone makes a mildly offensive joke. She claps her hands together, nodding at the guests as if encouraging them to join in. "That is classic Bianca," my father booms, his voice carrying easily to the back of the church. "Always making an entrance. Look at that face. Priceless." My mother wipes a tear of mirth from her eye. "Oh, Scarlett, do not look so sour. It is just a dress. It is funny. Lighten up." The shock in the room shifts into confusion. The guests shift in their pews, the wood creaking uneasily. They look from my ruined dress to my laughing parents, trying to calculate if this is a skit. Is this some modern, avant-garde wedding tradition they do not know about? Is this a prank? They do not know that they are witnessing an execution. Beside me, Evan stiffens. I can feel the heat radiating off him. His posture, usually so relaxed, has snapped into something rigid and dangerous. His hands ball into fists at his sides, the knuckles turning white. He steps forward, his chest expanding as he prepares to roar at them, to shatter the disrespect with the violence it deserves. I reach out and grab his wrist. My grip is iron hard. I do not look at him. I keep my eyes fixed on Bianca. But I squeeze Evan's arm with every ounce of strength I possess. "Not yet," I tell him silently. "Do not give them the reaction they are starving for. If Evan screams, they win. If he causes a scene, they become the victims of an aggressive groom who can't take a joke. I know their playbook. I wrote the counter strategy years ago." Bianca is still performing her innocent panic. She reaches out a hand as if to touch the stain, her fingers fluttering uselessly. "I am so sorry. Scarlett, I do not know what happened. I just wanted to make a toast before the vows, you know? To my big sister." Her voice is pitched perfectly for the audience, dripping with false sweetness, but her eyes are not looking at me. They flick briefly, instinctively. To the left, I follow her gaze, propped against a hymnal on the second pew, half hidden by a bouquet of baby's breath, is her phone. The camera lens is facing the altar. The red recording light is a tiny, unblinking eye. She did not just want to ruin the dress, she wanted the content. She wanted the viral moment of the bridezilla reacting, or the clumsy sister moment that makes her look relatable and chaotic while I look stiff and unforgiving. She wanted to monetize my humiliation. A server from the catering staff runs up the side aisle, breathless, holding a stack of white napkins. Ma'am, here, let me help." My mother waves her hand dismissively from the pew. "Oh, leave it. It adds character. Just get on with the vows." The priest looks at me, his face pale and uncertain. "Miss Ross, perhaps we should pause? There is a retiring room." "No," I say. My voice is not loud, but it cuts through the murmurs like a scalpel. I refuse the tissues the server is offering. I refuse the sympathetic look from my maid of honor on the other side. I refuse to cry. I can feel the tears pricking the back of my eyes. Hot, angry tears that want to spill over and wash away the shame. But I swallow them down. I burn them in the furnace of my chest. I take a step toward Bianca. She flinches. Just slightly. Good. She expects a slap. She expects me to scream. She wants me to scream so she can cry and look like the fragile little sister being bullied by the mean. Perfectionist bride. I move into her personal space, ignoring the smell of wine that now reeks like vinegar between us. I lean in close, intimate, as if we are sharing a sisterly secret. Her smile falters. She sees something in my eyes she has not seen before. Usually, when she pulls these stunts, I simply retreat. I pay the bill, I fix the mess, I hide. Not today. I lean my mouth toward her ear, my lips brushing the diamond earring I bought her for her birthday 3 years ago. "I hope you got the angle right, Bianca," I whisper, my voice dropping to a register so low only she can hear it, "because this video is going to cost you everything. The car, the apartment, the credit cards. I am shutting it all down." Bianca pulls back as if she has been burned. The color drains from her face, leaving her foundation looking cakey and artificial. Her mouth opens to speak, but no sound comes out. She looks at my parents, searching for backup, but they are still chuckling, oblivious to the fact that the dynamic has just shifted tectonically. I turn my back on her. I face the congregation. 200 faces are staring at me, some with pity, some with morbid curiosity, some with horror. I smooth the front of my dress. The wine stain is massive, a jagged map of violence covering my torso. I do not try to hide it. I stand tall, my spine locking into place. I look at the priest. "Father," I say, and my voice is steady. It is the voice I use in boardrooms when I'm acquiring a competitor. It is the voice that built a logistics empire from a laptop in a basement. "We are going to restart the ceremony." The priest blinks. "Restart?" "Yes," I say. "From the beginning. My sister will take her seat now." I do not ask. I command. I look at Bianca. I point to the pew next to our parents. "Sit down." The command is absolute. The playfulness is gone. The sisterly vibe is dead. Bianca looks at the phone, then at me. She looks terrifyingly small suddenly. She scurries to the pew and sits down next to our mother, who has finally stopped laughing and is looking at me with a narrowed, confused expression. "Evan," I say, turning to my fiancé. He is still vibrating with rage, staring at my father like he wants to leap over the railing. "Evan," I say again, softer this time. "Look at me." He turns his eyes to mine. The anger in them softens into heartbreak. "Scarlett, your dress." "It is just fabric," I say, loud enough for the first few rows to hear. "The commitment is what matters." I signal the organist. He is an old man, confused by the drama, but he sees my hand signal, a sharp, professional nod. He begins playing the processional music again. The guests are unsettled. The murmur rises again. This is not how it goes. The bride is supposed to run away crying. The wedding is supposed to be ruined by refusing to leave, by refusing to clean myself up. I am forcing them to look at what they did. I am forcing my parents to sit there and watch their daughter get married covered in the mess they celebrated. I am making the stain a part of the ceremony. As the music swells, my eyes drift to the side table where Bianca set the glass down. It is a heavy crystal goblet with a distinctive etching of a vine pattern around the rim. My mind, honed by years of managing complex logistics and tracking inventory discrepancies, latches onto that detail. That glass does not belong to the caterer. The caterer is using standard, smooth-walled glassware for the reception. I approved the rental order myself. That specific etched glass belongs to the church's private collection. It is kept in the bride's dressing room in the back, a room that has been locked since I walked out of it 10 minutes ago. Bianca did not grab a glass of wine from a passing tray at the entrance. There is no alcohol allowed in the sanctuary vestibule. She had to go into the private room, find the bottle of communion wine or a stash she brought herself, pour it into that specific glass, and hide it behind the altar or carry it in under her bouquet. This was not an impulse. This was not a clumsy accident or a last-minute decision to be playful. She planned this. She staged the glass. She waited for the exact moment the music stopped to ensure maximum impact. My parents knew. That is why they were ready to clap. They discussed it. They probably bet on whether I would cry or run. A coldness settles over me that has nothing to do with the damp wine. It is a crystalline clarity. For 2 years, I have played the role of the quiet, struggling daughter. I let them think I was a mid-level manager at a facility services company. I let them think I lived paycheck to paycheck. I let them mock my budget wedding. I thought that by making myself small, I would make myself safe. I thought that if I had nothing they wanted, they would leave me alone. I was wrong. They do not want my money. Well, they do. But that is secondary. They want my pain. They feed on it. My happiness is an insult to their miserable, chaotic lives. As I take Evan's hand again, ignoring the sticky feeling of the drying sugar on my skin, I make a vow that is not in the liturgy. I will not scream at them at the reception. I will not send angry text messages. I will not ban them from my house, because that gives them a story to tell about how unreasonable I am. No, I own a company that specializes in complex supply chains and distressed asset acquisition. I know how to dismantle structures piece by piece. I know how to track liabilities. They have declared war on my happiness. Fine, I will return fire with their financial reality. I squeeze Evan's hand, and this time, there is a ghost of a smile on my lips. It is not a happy smile. It is the smile of a predator who has just realized the cage door is open. Let them have their laugh, I think, as the priest begins to speak again. It is the last thing they are ever going to get for free. I focus on the priest, my chin high, the red stain on my chest like a war medal. I am going to win this, and I am going to win it with paperwork, timing, and witnesses. To understand why I stood at the altar and watched my sister destroy my wedding dress without shedding a tear. You have to go back 2 years. You have to understand the architecture of the lie I lived every single Sunday. The transformation always happened 3 blocks away from my parents' house. I would pull my car, a reliable but intentionally dull gray sedan with a dent in the rear bumper, into the back corner of a gas station parking lot. The engine would tick into silence, and I would take a deep breath, preparing myself to shed the skin of a CEO and put on the costume of the family failure. I kept the uniform in a gym bag in the trunk. It was a navy blue polo shirt made of thick, unbreathable polyester, with the logo Riverton Facilities Services embroidered in yellow thread over the pocket. The pants were ill-fitting cargo trousers, stiff and unflattering. The shoes were the masterpiece of the ensemble. Heavy, black non-slip work boots that I had taken sandpaper to, scuffing the toes until they looked like they had walked 1,000 miles of concrete floors. I would change in the cramped back seat of the car, feeling the scratchy fabric settle against my skin like a hair shirt. I would pull my hair back into a messy, fraying bun, deliberately pulling out a few strands to frame my face in exhaustion. I scrubbed off my mascara, leaving just a faint, smudged residue under my eyes to suggest a 14-hour shift. By the time I looked in the rearview mirror, Scarlett Ross, the logistics magnate, was gone. In her place was Scarlett the struggler, Scarlett the maintenance girl, Scarlett the cautionary tale. Driving the final 3 blocks to my parents' driveway was not just a commute. It was a descent into a carefully curated hell. Entering the house on Sundays always felt like walking onto a stage where everyone else knew the lines, and my role was simply to be the prop. The house smelled of roast beef and expensive red wine, the kind my father bought by the case while complaining about the electric bill. "Look who finally decided to clock out," Bianca would say the moment I walked through the door. She would be lounging on the white sectional sofa, phone in hand, ring light already set up on the coffee table. She always looked pristine, her makeup airbrushed, wearing athleisure sets that cost more than my fake weekly paycheck. "I had to cover a shift," I would mutter, looking at the floor. Someone called out sick. "Gross," Bianca would laugh, not looking up from her screen. "Did you at least shower? You smell like industrial cleaner." "I washed my hands," I would say, keeping my voice low and defeated. This was the dynamic. It was predictable. It was safe. Bianca had started a new series on her social media channels recently. She called it Reality Check with the Ross Sisters. Though I had never agreed to be a cast member, she would wait until I was sitting at the dinner table, looking my most tired, and then she would hit record. "So, guys," she would chirp, aiming the camera at herself before panning it violently toward me. "My sister Scarlett is literally falling asleep in her mashed potatoes. Tell them what you did today. Scar, did you fix a toilet? Did you mop a hallway? The people want to know what the grind looks like." I would freeze, holding my fork halfway to my mouth. "Bianca, please, I am tired." She is shy. Bianca would narrate to her invisible audience, putting on a pouty face. "She works for a facilities company. It is so honest, so humble. We are so proud of her for trying." My parents, Mark and Diane, would sit at the heads of the table, watching this performance with benevolent neglect. To them, Bianca's cruelty was just sisterly teasing. To them, my humiliation was the natural order of things. I was the one who had not launched. I was the one who had settled for manual labor while Bianca chased stardom. "Put the phone away, B," my father would say eventually. But without any real authority, he would pour himself another glass of Merlot. "Let your sister eat. She needs the energy if she's going to pick up extra shifts next week." That was the cue. The money talk. It always started with a sigh from my mother. Diane would push her vegetables around her plate, the diamond bracelets on her wrist clicking against the porcelain. "We have a bit of a situation this month," she would say, addressing the room but looking specifically at my father. "The roof insurance premium went up again, and Bianca needs that new camera lens for her brand partnerships. You know she cannot shoot professional content with an iPhone forever." "It is an investment," Bianca would interject, her mouth full. "I have a brand deal pending with a skincare line. They need 4 distinct high-definition reels by Friday." "We are just a little short," my father would say, finally looking at me. His eyes were heavy, expecting compliance. "Scarlett, how was your overtime this week?" I would chew slowly, calculating the number in my head. I had to offer enough to be helpful, but not enough to breed suspicion. If I gave too much, they would wonder where a maintenance worker got the cash. If I gave too little, I was ungrateful. I made about $200 in overtime. I would lie. I was saving it for a new tire. "My front left is bald." "Oh, the tire can wait," my mother would say instantly, waving her fork. "You do not drive that far anyway. Bianca's lens is time-sensitive. The deal expires on Tuesday." "But Mom, the tire is dangerous in the rain," I would say, injecting just the right amount of pathetic whining into my voice. "Family helps family, Scarlett," my father would rumble, his face darkening. "We let you do laundry here for free. We feed you every Sunday. Do not be selfish. We need 300. Can you make it happen?" I would look down at my plate, letting my shoulders slump. "I can give you 250. That is all I have until Friday." "Fine," Bianca would snap. "I will put the rest on the Amex. God, why is everything such a struggle with you?" I would transfer the money right there at the table, $250 sent from my personal checking account, the decoy account, to Bianca's Venmo. They would relax instantly. The tension would vanish. I had paid the toll. I was allowed to finish my meal. They thought they were fleecing me. They thought they were squeezing the last drops of blood from a stone. They had no idea that $250 was what I spent on a business lunch on a Tuesday without blinking. They had no idea that the maintenance girl sitting across from them, wearing polyester and shame, was the sole owner and CEO of Steelbridge Med Logistics. The truth was a secret I held close to my chest like a hidden blade. Steelbridge was not just a delivery service. It was a high-complexity logistics firm specializing in the transport of surgical instrumentation, organ transplant containment units, and sensitive biopharmaceuticals across the tri-state area. I had built it from nothing, spotting a gap in the market when the local hospital systems were struggling with reliable, temperature-controlled courier services. While Bianca was filming lip-sync videos in her bedroom, and my parents were refinancing their house to pay for her image, I was negotiating contracts with the largest healthcare networks in Pennsylvania. I had 75 drivers on the payroll. I had a fleet of 40 climate-controlled Sprinter vans. My company moved $3 million of inventory every single day, but my name appeared nowhere. I had learned the art of corporate obfuscation early. Steelbridge was owned by a holding company called Blue Horizon Ventures, LLC, which was owned by another entity registered in Delaware. On paper, the company was managed by a man named David Thorne. David was real. He was my chief operating officer, a brilliant, 60-year-old logistics veteran who knew my family situation and protected my anonymity with the loyalty of a guard dog. When I walked into the Steelbridge headquarters on Monday mornings, I did not wear a blue polo. I wore tailored Italian wool suits. I wore silk blouses. I commanded a conference room of 20 people. I made decisions that affected the surgical schedules of 5 major hospitals. But on Sundays, I shrank. Why? Because I had learned a brutal lesson when I was 12 years old. I had won a regional essay contest, a genuine achievement that came with a $500 prize. I ran home, bursting with pride, holding the check. My parents took the check to keep it safe. Bianca cried because she hadn't won anything. By the next day, the money was gone, spent on a modeling class for Bianca that she quit after 2 sessions. When I asked about it, I was called selfish. I was told I thought I was better than everyone else. I realized then that in the Ross family, success was a resource to be harvested, and pride was a target to be destroyed. If I were successful, they would feel entitled to my money. They would guilt me, manipulate me, and drain me until my business was as hollow as their mortgage-refinanced lives. But if I were a failure, if I were the poor, struggling, blue-collar sister, then I was invisible. They could only take what I offered. They could only mock what I showed them. The deception required rigorous discipline. After leaving my parents' house on Sunday nights, physically drained from the performance, I would drive to a crumbling apartment complex on the south side of the city. This was my official address. It was a studio apartment above a laundromat that I rented for $800 a month. I kept it staged. There was a futon, a stack of unpaid bills on the counter, a fridge with expired milk, and a closet full of more Riverton uniforms. I picked up my mail there once a week. It was the only address my family had, but I did not sleep there. I would check the mailbox, maybe toss a piece of junk mail into the trash for realism, and then get back in my car. I would drive another 20 minutes to the quiet, leafy streets of Shadyside. I would pull into the garage of a renovated, 3-story brick townhouse. The door would close behind me, sealing out the noise and the lies. Inside, my real life waited. My home was a sanctuary of minimalism and peace. High ceilings, original hardwood floors, a kitchen with a 6-burner range that I actually used to cook meals my parents would never taste. There was a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, filled with the books on economics and supply chain management that I read while they thought I was watching reality TV. I would strip off the Riverton uniform and throw it directly into the washing machine. I would take a long, hot shower in a bathroom that looked like a spa, washing away the smell of their roast beef and their condescension. Standing in my living room, wrapped in a cashmere robe, looking out at the quiet street, I felt a profound sense of control. Bianca thought she was winning because she could make me look small on the internet. My parents thought they were winning because they could bully me out of $200. Let them have the small victories. Let them have the likes. Let them have the feeling of superiority. It was a drug, and I was their dealer. I kept them supplied with the version of Scarlett they wanted, the loser, the disappointment, so they would never look for the version of Scarlett they would try to destroy. My rule was simple, and I repeated it to myself every time the humiliation burned a little too hot, every time Bianca zoomed her camera in on my scuffed boots. If they think I am broke, they can only steal my patience. If they know I am rich, they will try to steal my future. I was playing the long game. I was building an empire in the dark, brick by quiet brick, waiting for the day when I would no longer need the costume. I just never expected that the day I took the costume off would be my wedding day. I never expected that the catalyst would not be my choice, but a glass of red wine and a round of applause that shattered the last remnant of my mercy. But looking back at those Sunday dinners, at the way Diane sneered at my poverty while spending my secret money on her vanity, I realized something. I was not just hiding, I was taking notes. I was itemizing every insult, every stolen dollar, every moment of cruelty. They thought I was the maintenance girl. They forgot that the maintenance girl has the keys to the building. She knows where the pipes are buried. She knows exactly which valve to turn to shut the whole system down. And I was getting ready to turn the valve. The Sunday dinners were never about food. They were about jurisdiction. If my double life was a spy thriller, the dining room table was the interrogation room where the enemy checked for cracks in my cover. We sat in the same seats we had occupied since childhood, a geographical manifestation of our family hierarchy. My father, Mark, sat at the head. The warden of the household, my mother, Diane, sat to his right. The enforcer of emotional debts, Bianca, sat across from me, the golden child whose shine was polished daily by our parents' delusions. And then there was me, Scarlett, the punchline. The roast chicken in the center of the table was dry, a characteristic failure of my mother's cooking that no one was allowed to mention. I sawed through a piece of breast meat, conscious of the fact that my Riverton work boots were heavy against the Persian rug beneath the table. Beside me, Evan sat in a silence so loud it practically hummed. He hated these dinners. He hated the way they looked at me. He hated that he had to pretend the woman he was marrying was a destitute janitor instead of a logistics tycoon. "So," Bianca announced, breaking the silence with the subtlety of a car crash. She swirled her wine. A bottle I knew cost $40, paid for by the emergency cash I had transferred last week. My engagement metrics are literally insane right now. I posted that reel about manifesting abundance and I got 3,000 likes in an hour. "That is wonderful. Sweetheart," my mother cooed, beaming. "You are building an empire." "It is hard work," Bianca sighed, leaning back and playing with her necklace. "People think being a lifestyle creator is just taking pictures, but it is strategy. I am actually thinking about hiring an assistant. I am just too overwhelmed with all the brand interest." I kept my eyes on my plate. I knew the reality of Bianca's empire. I had run a background check on her finances when she tried to use my identity for a loan application 6 months ago. Her brand deals were mostly barter arrangements, free moisturizer in exchange for a post. Her income was non-existent. She was $30,000 in credit card debt, surviving on the rotation of minimum payments and the cash my parents siphoned from me. "An assistant sounds expensive," Evan said. His voice was calm, but I could hear the edge in it. "Does the revenue support a salary?" The air in the room dropped 10 degrees. My father stopped chewing. My mother looked at Evan as if he had just belched during a funeral service. "Evan," my father said, his voice a low rumble, "we do not discourage ambition in this house. Bianca is investing in her future, unlike some people who are content to punch a clock for the rest of their lives." The stare he leveled at me was heavy, a physical weight pressing down on my shoulders. It was Mark Ross's favorite weapon, the disappointed glare of a patriarch who felt owed a better return on his genetic investment. "I am just asking," Evan said, reaching for his water glass. "Business is about cash flow. It is about vision," Bianca snapped. "But I would not expect a mechanic's daughter to understand the creator economy." I felt Evan's leg tense under the table. I placed my hand on his knee, squeezing gently. "Easy," I signaled. "Do not engage." "How was work, Scarlett?" my mother asked, pivoting the conversation not to include me, but to use me as a contrast. "Are they still making you work those terrible night shifts?" "It is fine," I said, keeping my voice small. "I picked up a double shift on Tuesday. The terrifying part is just the commute. My car is making that noise again." "Well, at least you have a job," my mother said, sighing dramatically. "We all have to make sacrifices. Your father and I have sacrificed everything to give you girls a start in life. We went without vacations for 5 years to pay for Bianca's modeling portfolio. Family helps family. That is the rule." I knew where this was going. The preamble of sacrifice always led to the collection plate. "Speaking of helping," my father said, wiping his mouth with a linen napkin, "the HOA sent a notice. They are fining us for the driveway condition. Apparently, there are oil stains. They want it resurfaced." "And?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "And we are a little tight this month," he said, looking at me with an expectation that bordered on entitlement. "Bianca needed a deposit for her trip to Tulum. It is a networking event, very important for her brand. We need you to cover the driveway. It is only $1,200. $1,200? To them, it was a massive sum they expected me to bleed for. To me, it was less than I spent on office coffee supplies in a week. "Dad, I don't have $1,200 just sitting around, I lied, my voice trembling slightly. I have to pay rent. I was going to try to save for my dress alterations. Do not be selfish. Scarlett, my mother cut in, her eyes watering on command. Do you want us to be humiliated by the neighborhood association? Do you want them to put a lien on the house, after all we did for you? I can give you $500, I negotiated, but I have to wait until payday next Friday. $700, my father countered, and you can give it to us now. I know you stash cash tips. Do not lie to me. Fine, I whispered. $700, Bianca smirked, taking a bite of her chicken. Thanks, Scar. You are a lifesaver, honestly. I do not know how you live like that. Counting pennies. It would give me such anxiety. I transferred the money under the table on my phone. The insurance premium for my piece was paid. They would leave me alone for another week. They would feel superior, successful, and in control. Evan pushed his plate away, his appetite gone. He looked at me, his eyes screaming the question he asked me every time we left this house. Why do you let them do this? I looked back at him, keeping my face neutral. Because they are addicted to control. I thought, projecting the words to him, if I feed the addiction with scraps. They never look for the feast, but the dinner did not end with the transaction. Usually, after the money changed hands, they would ignore me. Tonight was different. Tonight, the air felt sharper. So, Bianca said, leaning forward, her elbows on the table, let us talk about the wedding. The big day is coming up. 3 months, I said. We are keeping it simple. Right, simple. Bianca laughed. I mean, obviously, but I have been thinking, as your maid of honor, which I still think is hilarious that you did not ask me officially, but whatever, I am stepping up. I need details. What details? I asked. The timeline, Bianca said. Her eyes were not vacant anymore. They were sharp, focused. I need to know exactly when the vendors are arriving. Specifically the DJ and the photographer and the caterer. Why? I asked. Because I want to coordinate, she said smoothly. I want to make sure they are set up for content. I am going to vlog the whole day. My sister's budget wedding? It will be cute. People love poverty porn. It makes them feel better about their own lives. We have a planner handling the schedule, Evan said, his voice cold. A planner? My mother laughed. Since when can you afford a planner? Scarlett, are you wasting money on a planner when your father needs blood pressure medication? She is a friend, I lied quickly. She is doing it for free to build her portfolio. Bianca narrowed her eyes. What is her name? I want to DM her. Coordinate looks. She is not on social media, I said. Everyone is on social media, Bianca challenged. That is suspicious. Scarlett, why are you hiding her? I am not hiding her. She is just old school. Bianca stared at me for a long moment. It was not the stare of a sister. It was the stare of a competitor looking for a weakness. Then she smiled, but the smile did not reach her eyes. Okay, she said. What about the venue? The old stone church, right? Do they have a back entrance? Or strictly the main doors? My internal alarm bells, usually a low hum in this house, began to ring loudly. Why do you need to know about the entrances? I asked. Logistics, she said, using a word that belonged to my world, not hers. For the arrival, I want to make sure Mom and Dad get out of the car and into the church without getting wet if it rains. I'm just being a good sister. And the sound system, Bianca continued, pressing on. Is it the church's system? Or is the DJ bringing external speakers? Because if I want to play a surprise slideshow or something, I need to know the connectivity. No slideshows, I said firmly. We discussed this. No surprises. God, you are such a control freak, Bianca groaned, rolling her eyes. I am trying to do something nice for you, a tribute, and you are acting like I am a terrorist. You are not a terrorist, I said, my voice steady. You are just enthusiastic, and we want a quiet ceremony. Quiet, my father scoffed. Boring is the word you are looking for. You are inviting people to a funeral and calling it a wedding. We like boring, Evan said. Well, I don't, Bianca said. She picked up her knife and tapped it against the side of her wine glass. Clink, clink, clink. A wedding is a show, Scarlett. It is a performance. If you do not give the audience a show, they will resent you. You have to give them something to talk about. She looked at me then, and for a second, the mask slipped. I saw pure, distilled malice. She was jealous. Not of the money. She didn't know about that. She was jealous of the attention. For one day, I would be the center of the room. For one day, the cameras would be pointed at me, not her. And that was an existential threat to a narcissist. I am just curious, Bianca said, her voice dropping to a conversational tone that was somehow more menacing. What happens if something goes wrong? Do you have insurance? Like, if the dress gets ruined? Or if the food is bad? Do you get a refund? Nothing is going to go wrong, I said. Accidents happen, she said, shrugging. Red wine stains are impossible to get out of silk. Did you know that? I read an article about it. Total nightmare. I froze. My hand gripped my fork so hard my knuckles turned white. She wasn't asking hypothetical questions. She was stress-testing a plan. She wanted to know about the entrances to see how she could sneak something in. She wanted to know about the sound system to see if she could hijack the audio. She wanted to know about the dress insurance because she was already visualizing the destruction. I looked at Evan. He had caught it too. His jaw was set so hard, I thought he might crack a tooth. We have it covered, I said, forcing my muscles to relax. But thank you for worrying. I am not worrying, Bianca said, taking a sip of wine. I am preparing. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of mastication and misery. My mother complained about her friends who had better jewelry. My father complained about the government. Bianca texted under the table, smiling at her screen, when we finally walked out to the driveway. The night air felt like oxygen to a drowning victim. They are planning something, Evan said the moment the car doors closed. He didn't start the engine. He just gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Did you hear her? Asking about the wine? Asking about the back entrance? Scarlett, she is going to torch the wedding. I know, I said. I looked back at the house. The lights were on in the dining room. I could see their silhouettes moving around. Probably opening another bottle of wine paid for with my $700. We have to uninvite them, Evan said. Seriously, we hire security. We keep them out. No, I said. Why? Evan turned to me, exasperated. Why do you protect them? They are monsters. I am not protecting them, I said. I am trapping them. I looked at the house, at the stage where I had played the fool for 2 decades. If we uninvite them, they play the victim, I said. They tell everyone I am the cruel, heartless daughter who abandoned her family. They spin the narrative. They win the sympathy vote. Bianca will make 50 videos crying about how I excluded her. So we just let them ruin it? No, I said. We let them try. I reached over and started the car. The engine purred to life. A quiet, reliable sound. Bianca wants a show, I said, staring at the window where my sister was likely plotting my downfall. She wants a viral moment. She wants to be the star of a tragedy. I thought about the assets I controlled. I thought about the lawyers on my retainer. I thought about the private investigators I used to vet potential business partners. She thinks she is writing the script, I told Evan. She thinks I am just the prop, but she forgot one thing. What is that? Evan asked. I own the theater, I said. Drive, Evan, I have some emails to send. As we pulled away, leaving the house of lies behind us, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. For years, I had been playing defense. I had been parrying their blows, absorbing their insults, paying their ransoms. But tonight, Bianca had tipped her hand. She had revealed that her ambition wasn't just to shine, but to burn me down to do it. She wanted a red wine accident? She wanted a scene? I would give her one. But when the curtain fell, she would be the one standing in the wreckage, not me. I pulled out my phone, my real phone, the encrypted one I kept in a hidden pocket of my purse. I unlocked it and opened a secure messaging app. I typed a message to Marianne Hart, my corporate attorney. Subject: Personal liability strategy. Message: Prepare a contingency file on Mark, Diane, and Bianca Ross. I need full debt leveraging options and asset tracking. Timeline: 3 months. Execute on my signal. I hit send. The war had been declared in the quiet of a dining room over dry chicken. They just didn't know they were fighting a general, not a janitor. The summons arrived on a Tuesday, 3 months before the wedding. It wasn't an invitation. It was a directive. My mother texted, "Family meeting, 7 p.m., do not be late." It is about the wedding logistics. I knew what wedding logistics meant in the Ross lexicon. It meant a shakedown. When Evan and I walked into the living room, the atmosphere was already calibrated for conflict. My parents were seated on the sofa like a tribunal. Bianca was perched on the armrest, scrolling through her phone, looking bored but dangerous. There was no food, no wine, just a palpable tension that smelled of desperation. "Sit down," my father said. He didn't look at Evan. He looked straight at me. We sat in the 2 armchairs facing them. I kept my hands folded in my lap, playing the part of the obedient, anxious daughter. "We have been looking at the numbers," my mother began, her voice trembling with that specific frequency she used right before a guilt trip. "And frankly, Scarlett, we are worried. We think you are making a huge mistake with this venue." "The Old Stone Church?" I asked. "It is booked. Mom, the deposit is paid." "It is too ostentatious," my father cut in. "It is too big. You are a maintenance worker. Scarlett, you inviting 200 people to a historic landmark? It looks desperate, like you are trying to be something you are not." I blinked. "I thought you wanted the family to look good." "We do," my mother said, "which is exactly why we think you should pivot. We have a better idea, a more intimate idea." "Cancel the church," my father said flatly. "Do it here, in the backyard." I looked out the sliding glass door. Their backyard was a patch of dying grass and a fence that was leaning at a 15-degree angle. It was next to a neighbor who raised beagles that howled at sirens. "The backyard?" I repeated. "It is charming," my mother insisted. "We can put up some fairy lights. Bianca can make a balloon arch. It will be rustic, very trendy, and it will save you, what, $5,000? $10,000, Evan corrected quietly. "The venue fee is $10,000. "Exactly." My father slapped his knee. $10,000. Do you know what $10,000 could do for this family? And there it was, the pivot, the real agenda. "Why does the family need $10,000 right now?" I asked, keeping my voice innocent. Bianca finally looked up from her phone. She tossed her hair, a slow, practiced movement. "It is not for the family, per se. It is an investment opportunity. For the brand." "What kind of investment?" Evan asked. "A car," Bianca said. "I cannot show up to influencer events in my Honda Civic anymore. It is embarrassing. It is off-brand. I have a chance to lease a Range Rover Velar, white with tan interior. It is the it car right now, but the lease down payment and the insurance, it is steep." I stared at her. "You want me to cancel my wedding venue so you can lease a luxury SUV?" "Don't be dramatic," my mother snapped. "It is a reallocation of resources. You get a beautiful, intimate wedding at home, which is much more meaningful, by the way, and your sister gets the tools she needs to launch her career. When she makes it big, she pays you back, with interest." "It is a loan," my father added. "We are just asking you to be smart. Why waste money on a building for one day when you could invest in your sister's future?" The audacity was breathtaking, even for them. This was a new altitude of selfishness. They wanted me to get married in the dirt next to a leaning fence so Bianca could drive a $70,000 car she had no way of paying for. "I can't cancel," I said softly. The contracts are signed. Contracts can be broken, my father said, his voice hardening. You lose the deposit? Fine. You still save the rest. Hand over the difference. No, I said. The word hung in the air. It was quiet, but it was solid. My mother's face crumbled instantly. The tears started. On cue. Oh, Scarlett, I cannot believe you. We ask for one thing. One thing. After I was in labor with you for 18 hours. After we fed you and clothed you. It is not one thing. Mom, I said. It is my wedding. You are selfish, she wailed. You have always been selfish. Bianca needs this car. Her career depends on it. Scarlett, my father growled. Leaning forward. Do not disrespect your mother. You will write a check for the down payment. Tomorrow, or so help me God. We will not attend. Is that what you want? An empty front row? My heart hammered against my ribs, not from fear, but from the sheer effort of suppressing my rage. I wanted to laugh in his face. I wanted to pull out my phone and show him my bank balance. I wanted to tell him that I could buy the dealership, burn the Range Rover, and not even notice the expense, but I couldn't. Not yet. I am not writing a check, I said. Bianca laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. God, you are so pathetic. You are holding on to this dream wedding like it is going to fix your life. Newsflash. Scarlett, you are a janitor. You scrub toilets. Wearing a white dress in a big church isn't going to change that. You are a nobody. You don't deserve the fairy tale. She looked me up and down, her eyes lingering on my scuffed boots. My little job pays my bills, I said, my voice tight. Does your big dream pay yours? That is enough, my father shouted, standing up. Do not insult your sister. She is working harder than you will ever understand. She has vision. You have a mop. Evan stood up then. He moved slowly, unfolding his height until he towered over my father. We are not canceling the venue, Evan said. His voice was not loud, but it had the density of lead. I paid the deposits, all of them, from my savings. The money isn't Scarlett's to give you. It is mine. My father's face went through a complex series of contortions, embarrassment, anger, impotence. He hated being reminded that Evan had money, even the modest amount Evan pretended to have. It threatened his dominance. Oh, so you are the big man now? My father sneered. Buying her a wedding she can't afford? You are enabling her delusions. Evan, she is going to drag you down. She is mediocre, always has been. We are leaving, I said, standing up and grabbing Evan's arm. If you walk out that door, my mother screamed, don't expect us to help you. Don't expect us to set up. Don't expect us to bring the family heirlooms. Keep them, I said. We walked to the door. As I reached for the handle, Bianca spoke one last time. Enjoy your big church, Scarlett, she called out. But remember, big stages just mean more people watching when you trip. I didn't look back. We drove home in silence again. But this time, the silence wasn't heavy, it was electric. They are going to escalate, Evan said as we turned onto the highway. They didn't get the money. They are cornered animals now. I know, I said. Bianca is not going to let this go. He continued. She needs that car. If she can't bully you into funding it, she is going to punish you for refusing. She can try, I said, when we got back to my townhouse, my real home, safe behind its gate. I didn't go to bed. I went to my study. I sat at my mahogany desk and opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dark room. I logged into my banking portal. I pulled up the standing order for the emergency transfers I made to my parents, the little drips of cash that kept the peace, the insurance premiums. Delete. I clicked. Confirm. Then I logged into the security vendor portal for the wedding. I had hired a standard team, 2 guys at the door. I upgraded the package. Add service, interior rovers. Add service, vendor vetting protocol. Add service, discreet removal authority. I typed a note in the special instructions box. Principal subjects of concern: Mark Ross, Diane Ross, Bianca Ross. Do not deny entry. Monitor closely. Intervene only on specific signal from bride. I wasn't going to lock them out. I needed them inside. I needed them to feel comfortable. I needed them to feel like they had gotten away with their behavior, right up until the moment they didn't. Bianca's threat echoed in my mind. Big stages just mean more people watching when you trip. She was right, but she had confused the roles. I wasn't the one who was going to trip. I was the stage manager, and I was about to grease the floor under her feet. "Evan?" I called out. He appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am fine," I said. "I just stopped the payments." "All of them?" "All of them." "They are going to panic," he said. "Good," I said. "Panic makes people sloppy. Panic makes them make mistakes." I took the tea from him. 3 months, I said. "We have 3 months to let them stew. They are going to come at us with everything they have: guilt, insults, sabotage. And we are just going to take it?" "No," I said. "We are going to document it." I opened a new folder on my desktop. I named it Project Red. "Every text they send," I said, "every voicemail, every threat, we save it. If Bianca tries to sabotage a vendor, we get it in writing. If Mom tries to change the catering order, we keep the log." "For what?" Evan asked. "For the reception," I said, "or for the courtroom, whichever comes first." I looked at the calendar on the wall. The date of the wedding was circled in red. It looked less like a celebration and more like a deadline. The wedding discussion had clarified one thing. My family didn't see me as a person. They saw me as an asset to be liquidated. They saw my happiness as a budget line item they could cut to fund their own vanity. Canceling the venue for a Range Rover. It was almost funny in its grotesquerie, but the joke was over. I closed my laptop. The screen went black. "Let's go to sleep," I said. "I have a big day tomorrow. I have to go to work and pretend to be poor while I buy the debt on my parents' house." Evan smiled. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. "I love it when you talk corporate takeover." "It is not a takeover," I said, turning off the lamp. "It is a foreclosure on their toxicity." The fitting took place at Monique's, a bridal salon in downtown Pittsburgh that smelled of lavender and money. It was the kind of place where they did not have price tags, only whispered consultations, and where the champagne served in the waiting area cost more than my weekly grocery budget in my fictional life. I stood on the pedestal in front of a 3-way mirror, the silk of my gown settling around me like a second skin. It was a masterpiece of architectural simplicity, a strapless bodice that structured my torso, flowing into a skirt that moved like liquid smoke. There was no beading, no lace, no distractions, just pure, unforgiving white silk that required perfect posture and absolute confidence to wear. For a moment, staring at my reflection, the Riverton facility's maintenance worker vanished. I looked like the CEO of a multi-million-dollar logistics firm. I looked like myself. Then, the mirror reflected the person sitting on the velvet chaise behind me. Bianca was scrolling through her phone, her thumb moving with the manic speed of an addict. She was wearing a neon green tracksuit that was supposedly high fashion, but looked mostly like a radioactive hazard suit. She hadn't looked up once since I stepped out of the dressing room. "Well?" I asked, my voice echoing slightly in the hushed room. Bianca glanced up. Her eyes did not soften. They didn't fill with sisterly tears. They narrowed, scanning the dress like a building inspector looking for code violations. "It is white," she said flatly. "It is ivory," the stylist corrected gently, adjusting the hem. "Silk crepe. It is imported from Italy." Bianca snorted. "It looks plain. Like, really plain. Are you sure you did not pick the lining by mistake?" "I like the simplicity," I said, turning to check the back view. "It feels elegant." Bianca stood up and walked around the pedestal. She circled me like a shark investigating a potential meal. Her phone still clutched in her hand. She stopped in front of me, crossing her arms. "It looks like a costume, Scarlett," she said. Her voice was syrupy, fake whispering so the stylist wouldn't hear. Even though she definitely could. "A costume?" "Yeah," Bianca said, tilting her head. "You know when little girls play princess? They put on these big, fancy dresses, but you can still tell they are just kids playing pretend? That is what this looks like. It is a costume in a gown. It doesn't fit who you are." She reached out and flicked a piece of invisible lint off the bodice. "I mean, look at your hands," she continued, looking at my manicured fingernails. "You scrub floors. Scarlett, this dress says old money. You scream, no money. It is just jarring. People are going to be confused." The stylist stiffened, her pins freezing in midair. She looked at me, horrified, waiting for me to snap. I didn't snap. I didn't even blink. I was used to Bianca's cruelty. It was the background noise of my life, like traffic or the hum of a refrigerator. But today, under the harsh studio lights, it felt more surgical. She wasn't just being mean. She was trying to puncture the confidence I would need to walk down the aisle. She wanted me to feel like a fraud so I would look like one. "I think I can pull it off," I said calmly. "Evan likes it." "Evan would like you in a trash bag if it saved him money," Bianca scoffed. "Though, looking at this price list, he is definitely overpaying for this sheet." She pulled out her phone and opened the camera app. "Hold on. Let me get a picture for Mom. She needs to see what we are wasting the inheritance on." "No photos," the stylist said quickly. "Store policy, no photos until the purchase is final." "Relax. I am an influencer," Bianca said, rolling her eyes. "I am giving you exposure." "Bianca, put it away," I said. She ignored me. She held the phone up, angling it for a shot. "Smile, maintenance girl. Try to look expensive." I watched her in the mirror. She wasn't framing my face. She wasn't capturing the silhouette of the dress. She was holding the phone low, angling the lens toward the open seam where the stylist was working. She was zooming in on the manufacturer's tag that was currently exposed, and the specific weave of the fabric near the hem. It wasn't a cute sister photo. It was reconnaissance. She was capturing the details. Maybe to look up the real price and mock me if it was cheap, or criticize Evan if it was expensive. Or maybe, and my stomach tightened at the thought, she was looking for the fabric composition to see how it would react to liquids. I shifted my stance, blocking the tag with my arm. I said no photos. "Bianca." She lowered the phone, looking annoyed. "God, you are so uptight. I was just trying to hype you up. You have zero social media presence. You are basically a ghost. I am trying to give you a footprint." "I like being a ghost," I said. "Ghosts are hard to target." The fitting finished in silence. When it was time to pay the remaining balance, the stylist led me to the front desk. The total was significant, $6,500. I reached into my purse. Usually, around my family, I used a debit card from a local credit union that I kept specifically for the poor Scarlet charade. But today, I had made a mistake. I had left the decoy wallet in my other bag. I hesitated. I could ask to pay over the phone later, but Bianca was standing right there, hovering over the counter, trying to see the total on the register screen. If I hesitated, she would think the card was declined. She would tell my parents I couldn't afford the dress. They would swoop in, offer to pay, and then hold it over my head for the next 20 years. I couldn't let that happen. I reached into the zippered compartment of my bag and pulled out my primary card. It was a heavy black anodized titanium card, the kind you have to be invited to own, the kind that makes a specific, heavy thud when you drop it on a glass counter. I placed it on the desk. Thud. The stylist's eyebrows shot up. She recognized the card. She looked from the card to my face, reevaluating everything she thought she knew about the quiet bride. Bianca's eyes widened. She stared at the black metal rectangle. For a second, I thought I was busted. I thought the game was over. Then she laughed. "Wow," Bianca said, shaking her head. Evan really gave you the leash, huh? I paused, my hand still on the card. What? The corporate card, Bianca said, pointing at it. He gave you his company card? That is risky. Does his business partner know he is letting his fiancée run wild with the company credit line? She couldn't conceive of a world where that card belonged to me. In her mind, I was incapable of generating wealth. Therefore, any wealth in my orbit had to be borrowed, stolen, or granted by a man. I didn't correct her. I let the sexism protect me. He trusts me, I said simply. Must be nice, she muttered, watching the stylist run the card. I mean, it is kind of pathetic that you can't pay for your own dress. But whatever. Get that bag, I guess. Your receipt? The stylist said, handing me the slip with both hands, treating me with a sudden, deferential reverence. Thanks, I said. As we walked out of the store into the bright Pittsburgh afternoon, the sun was shining, but the air between us was cold. Bianca put her sunglasses on, oversized, designer frames that covered half her face. So, she said, checking her reflection in a shop window. White silk. It is bold. Why is it bold? I asked. Because it shows everything, she said. Every lump, every bump, and stains? Forget it. You drop one drop of water on that, and it looks like a disaster. She turned to me, and a slow smile spread across her face. It wasn't a smile of concern. It was a smile of anticipation. Imagine if someone spilled red wine on that, she said. It would be so dramatic. The contrast? Red on white? It would look like a murder scene. Honestly, on camera. It would be iconic. She laughed then. A short, sharp bark of a laugh that ended too quickly. My blood ran cold. It wasn't a joke. It was a storyboard pitch. I looked at her. Really looked at her. I saw the way her hand twitched toward her phone even now. I saw the desperation in her posture. She didn't just want to ruin my day because she hated me. That was too simple. That was too analog. Bianca was a content creator with no content. She was an influencer with no influence. She needed a moment. She needed a viral hook. A beautiful wedding ruined by a tragic accident? That was gold. That was millions of views. That was sympathy, engagement, and brand relevance. She was going to monetize my humiliation. Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. It would be dramatic. Totally, she said, already typing, probably to my mother. Dress acquired, white silk, highly stainable, plan is a go. When I got home that evening, I told Evan everything. We were in the kitchen. I was chopping vegetables with a little more force than necessary. She actually said that? Evan asked, leaning against the counter. Red wine? She said it would be iconic, I said. She wasn't warning me. She was rehearsing. Evan slammed his hand down on the granite island. That is it. I am calling your parents. She is uninvited. I don't care about the fallout. She is not coming within 500 feet of that church. No, I said, putting the knife down. Scarlett, are you insane? She just told you she's going to destroy the dress. Why would we let her in? I wiped my hands on a towel and turned to face him. Because if we uninvite her, she spins the story. She becomes the victim. She tells everyone we are insecure, controlling monsters who hate family. She posts a video crying in her car, and she gets her viral moment anyway, just without the visual payoff. So we just let her do it? Evan asked, his voice rising. We let her stand there and pour wine on you? If she wants to perform, I said, my voice dropping to that cold, calm register that terrified my board of directors. Let her perform, but she is going to do it in front of witnesses. She is going to do it on camera, and she is going to do it while I am holding all the cards. It is going to ruin the ceremony, Evan said softly. The ceremony is just a ritual, I said. The marriage is what matters. And besides, I am not going down without a parachute. What do you mean? I walked over to my purse and pulled out a second receipt. I handed it to him. He looked at it. It was from a different boutique, one I had visited alone, 40 minutes after dropping Bianca off at her apartment. A second dress? He asked. Not a wedding gown, I said. A sleek white column dress, minimalist, high neck, bulletproof tailoring. It cost $2,000, and I paid for it with the account Bianca doesn't know exists. Where is it? I am having it shipped directly to the venue coordinator, I said. It will be hanging in the groom's suite, inside a garment bag labeled Evan's Tux Change. No one looks in the groom's suite. Bianca will never find it. Evan looked at me, a mixture of awe and fear in his eyes. You really think she is going to do it? I know she is, I said. Bianca is a creature of instinct. If she sees a white canvas, she has to throw paint. I am just making sure that when she throws it, I have a change of clothes and a team of lawyers ready to catch the spill. I took the receipt back and folded it into a tiny square. She thinks the red wine is the finale, I whispered. She has no idea it is just the opening act. I went back to chopping the vegetables. The knife hit the cutting board with a rhythmic, steady sound. Chop, 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 like a countdown. The dress fitting had confirmed everything. The war was no longer cold. Bianca had shown me her weapon. Now, all I had to do was wait for her to pull the trigger and make sure the recoil knocked her teeth out. The rain in Pittsburgh does not wash things clean. It just makes the grime slicker. It was a Tuesday evening, 2 weeks before the wedding, and the sky had been weeping a cold, gray drizzle since noon. Evan and I were sitting in his car outside my parents' house, the windshield wipers slapping back and forth with a hypnotic, rhythmic thwack hiss. On the back seat lay a large, stiff envelope containing the final seating chart for the reception. It was a mundane errand. The caterer needed the final count, and because my mother insisted on having input on where her bridge club friends sat, I had to deliver the physical copy for her approval. It was a courtesy I did not want to extend, but in the chess game I was playing, maintaining the appearance of a dutiful, slightly overwhelmed daughter was essential. Do you want me to go in with you? Evan asked, his hand resting on the gear shift. He looked tired. The last few months of playing the broke fiancé to my broke daughter persona had worn him down. He hated the way they spoke to me. He hated that he had to bite his tongue when my father made jokes about his stagnant career. No, I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. It will be faster if I just run in, drop it on the hall table, and leave. If we go in together, they will try to make us stay for coffee and criticism. Call me if you need an extraction, he said, half joking. I will be 3 minutes, I promised. I grabbed the envelope and stepped out into the rain. I didn't have an umbrella, so I hunched my shoulders against the chill. Running up the cracked concrete driveway, the house loomed above me, a brick monument to suburban dissatisfaction. The windows were glowing with that warm, deceptive yellow light that suggests a happy family lives inside. I reached the front door and reached for my keys, but the knob turned in my hand. It was unlocked. That was the first sign that they were distracted. My father was paranoid about security. Ironic, considering he was the biggest thief in my life, and usually bolted the door the moment he got home from work. I pushed the door open quietly. The hinges, which I had oiled myself 3 years ago during a weekend of chores, swung silent and smooth. I stepped into the foyer. The house smelled of lemon furniture polish and the stale, lingering scent of my father's cigars. I shook the rain from my hair and prepared to call out a cheerful, "Hello?" But the sound died in my throat. Laughter was drifting from the living room. It was not the polite, social laughter they used for guests. It was raucous, ugly, wet laughter. It was the sound of conspirators celebrating a successful heist. I froze. The envelope in my hand felt suddenly heavy, like a lead weight. My instincts, honed by years of navigating this minefield, told me to stop, to listen. I took one step closer to the archway that separated the foyer from the living room. I stayed in the shadows, pressing my back against the wall where the coat rack stood. I am telling you, her face was priceless. Bianca's voice cut through the air. She sounded triumphant. When I told her the dress looked like a costume, she literally twitched. She is so insecure. She should be, my mother's voice chimed in. Who does she think she is? Wearing Italian silk? That girl has been scrubbing floors for 2 years. She has rough hands. You cannot put a tiara on a mule and call it a show pony. My stomach turned over. I had heard them insult me before. To my face, usually disguised as advice, but hearing it when they thought I wasn't there was different. It was raw. It was unvarnished hate. So, are we set on the timeline? My father asked. His voice was lower, gravelly with scotch. Because I do not want any mistakes. If we are going to do this, it has to be definitive. Relax, Dad, Bianca said. I could hear the clink of glass against a coaster. I have it all mapped out. The ceremony starts at 1 o'clock. The procession takes 10 minutes. Father Mulligan does the welcome. Then there is that lull before the vows, where the maid of honor fixes the bride's train. That is the window, Bianca continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that carried perfectly in the quiet house. I am going to have the glass hidden behind the flower arrangement on the altar. I will reach for it. Oops, maybe I just need a sip of water. I am so faint from emotion. And then, splash. A full glass? My mother asked. Don't miss. Bianca, if you just get the hem, she might try to hide it. Mom, please, Bianca scoffed. I played varsity volleyball. I have aim. I am going for the chest. Cab salve. Deep red. It is going to look like a gunshot wound. There is no coming back from that. The photos will be ruined. The video will be ruined. She will be standing there dripping wet, looking like the trash she is. I felt a hand grip my shoulder. I nearly screamed, but the hand was firm and familiar. I whipped my head around. Evan had followed me in. He must have seen me freeze in the hallway through the sidelight window and come to check on me. His face was a mask of absolute, white-hot fury. He was staring at the archway, his eyes wide, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping under the skin. He made a move to step forward. To storm into the room and tear them apart, I grabbed his arm. I dug my fingers into his bicep, shaking my head violently. No, I mouthed. He looked at me, pleading. Let me stop this. His eyes screamed. I pulled him back into the shadows. We stood there, huddled together in the dark foyer, invisible witnesses to our own execution. But what about the fallout? My father asked. Evan is going to be pissed. The boy has a temper. Let him be pissed, Bianca said dismissively. What is he going to do? Hit a girl? He is too soft. Besides, it will be an accident. I will cry. I will say I tripped. You guys will back me up. You will say the carpet was loose. Of course we will, my mother said. It is just a dress, Mark. It is not the end of the world. Maybe if she is humiliated enough, she will finally stop this nonsense and realize she needs us. She has been getting too independent lately, too uppity, thinking she can refuse to help the family with the car, thinking she can hide money from us. That is exactly it, my father said. And then he delivered the line that killed the last tiny, lingering hope I had that they might be redeemable. Let her have her day, my father said, his voice cold and flat. Let her walk down the aisle. Let her feel special for 5 minutes. And then, when Bianca spills that wine, we make sure she remembers who runs this family. We break her down. We remind her that without us, she is just a stain. She will finally match the carpet. My mother giggled. Worn out and walked all over. The cruelty of it took my breath away. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just about the Range Rover. It was about dominance. They wanted to humiliate me because I had dared to say no. They wanted to destroy my wedding to put me back in my box. The box labeled failure. Evan was vibrating with rage. I could feel the heat radiating off him. He started to pull away from my grip again, his protective instinct overriding his logic. Evan, I whispered, a sound barely louder than a breath. Don't. He looked at me, his eyes wet with angry tears. Scarlett, I am going to kill them. Don't save them from themselves, I whispered. If you go in there now, they will deny it. They will say they were joking. They will say we are crazy. They will gaslight us. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to be steady. I unlocked the screen and opened the voice memo app. I hit the red record button. I held the phone up toward the archway. I just think it is poetic, Bianca was saying. The video is going to go viral. Bride's sister accidentally ruins wedding. I will get 1 million views. And Scarlett? She will just be the prop. Make sure you look really sorry, my mother advised. Cover your mouth. Do the shocked face. Obviously, Bianca said. I am an actress. Mom, I know how to sell it. Good, my father said. Then it is settled. Operation Red Wedding is a go. Now, pour me another drink. All this planning is making me thirsty. I watched the waveform on my screen bounce with their voices. I recorded for another 10 seconds, capturing the clinking of glasses and their relaxed, self-satisfied laughter. Then I hit stop. I saved the file. I named it evidence_01. I looked at Evan. The rage in his eyes had settled into something colder, something harder. He understood now. He saw what I had known for years but had never been able to prove. They were not family. They were parasites. We have to go, I mouthed. We backed away slowly. Every step was a risk. If the floor creaked, if I dropped the keys, if one of them decided to come out to check the mail. We moved like ghosts. We stepped backward out the front door, closing it with agonizing slowness. I turned the handle, holding the latch in so it wouldn't click, and then gently released it once the door was flush with the frame. We were back in the rain. We walked down the driveway without running. We couldn't run. Running looked suspicious. We had to walk. We got into the car. Evan closed his door. I closed mine. The silence in the car was deafening. The only sound was the rain drumming on the roof and the frantic beating of my own heart. Evan didn't start the engine. He just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house. They are monsters, he said finally. His voice was thick. Scarlett, they are actual monsters. Your mother. She laughed about you matching the carpet. I know, I said. I was staring at the seating chart envelope still sitting on the dashboard. I hadn't delivered it. We can't let them do this, Evan said, turning to me. We have the recording. We send it to them. We tell them we know. We ban them. No, I said. Scarlett, why? Why would you put yourself through that? Because if we stop them now, I said, staring at the rain sliding down the glass, they will spin it. They will tell the aunts and uncles that we are paranoid. They will say they were just venting. They will say it was a joke, taken out of context. They will make me look crazy. I turned to look at him. My face felt cold, but my mind was burning with a clarity I had never felt before. They want to make a scene, I said. They want a viral moment. They want the world to see me humiliated. I reached out and touched Evan's hand. If we stop them, it is a private family squabble, I said. But if we let them do it, if we let Bianca throw that wine while the cameras are rolling, then it is not a rumor. It is a fact. You want it to happen? Evan asked, incredulous. I want them to commit the crime, I said. I want the world to see exactly who they are. I want the judge to see it. I want the jury to see it. I want their creditors to see it. I looked back at the house one last time. They think they are writing a tragedy, I said. But they don't know the genre changed. What genre is it now? Evan asked. It is a courtroom drama, I said. Start the car. Evan, we have work to do. As we drove away, leaving the envelope and the seating chart behind, I didn't feel sad anymore. The sadness had evaporated in that hallway, replaced by a cold, steely resolve. I thought about the logistics. I needed to make sure the cameras were high definition. I needed to make sure the audio was crisp. I needed to make sure that when Bianca raised that glass, there wasn't a single shadow for her to hide in. Evan, I said as we turned onto the main road, I need you to call the videographer in the morning. Okay, he said. Tell him we are doubling his rate, I said, but I have a specific request. What is it? I want a dedicated camera on the altar, I said. A wide-angle, uninterrupted feed, and I want him to patch the audio from the groom's lapel mic directly to a backup drive. You want to catch the sound of the splash, Evan realized. I want to catch the sound of the whisper, I corrected, because right before she does it, she's going to say something. I know her. She won't be able to help herself. She will want me to know it was intentional. And when she does, I said, leaning back in the seat and watching the streetlights blur past, I want it recorded in Dolby surround sound. The trap was no longer a theory. It was active. They had dug the pit, sharpened the spikes, and covered it with leaves. All I had to do was walk toward it and step aside at the last second. I pulled up the recording on my phone again. Evidence_01. I uploaded it to 3 different cloud servers. I emailed a copy to my lawyer. Marianne Hart. Subject: Supplemental evidence for case file Ross versus Ross. Attachment: audio_confession_conspiracy. MP3. Note: Marianne, please have this transcribed and notarized. Hold for the post-event filing. I hit send. The rain was still falling, but inside the car, it felt dry and safe. I was not the victim anymore. I was the prosecution, and court was about to be in session. The wine had not even dried on the silk before I made the appointment. The ceremony had ended, not in the disaster they hoped for, but in a strange, tense truce that I had orchestrated. I had walked out of that church with my head high, the red stain on my chest like a target I had painted there myself. But I did not go on a honeymoon. I did not go home to cry into a pillow. I went to war. 48 hours after Bianca emptied that glass of cabernet on me, I was sitting in a corner office on the 42nd floor of the Union Trust Building. The city of Pittsburgh sprawled out below, gray and industrious, a grid of steel and ambition. Inside, the air was conditioned to a crisp, sterile 68 degrees. Marianne Hart sat across from me. She was a woman made of sharp angles and sharper intellect, the kind of corporate attorney who viewed emotions as inefficiencies in a contract. She had been the legal architect behind my acquisition of Steelbridge Med Logistics, and she was the only person in the city, aside from Evan and my COO, who knew exactly how much I was worth. We have options, Scarlett, Marianne said, sliding a thin manila folder across the polished mahogany desk. Her voice was calm, the voice of a surgeon discussing an amputation. Based on the footage Evan's videographer captured, and the audio recording you made in the hallway, we have a clear case for intentional infliction of emotional distress. We could add civil battery for the wine spill. We could certainly sue for the cost of the gown and the venue damages. She tapped the file with a manicured fingernail. We could also look at a defamation suit if Bianca posts that video, she added. Get an injunction. Shut her social media down. I looked at the folder, but I did not open it. I was wearing a black blazer and tailored trousers, my CEO armor. The maintenance girl costume was gone. It was never coming back. No, I said. Marianne raised an eyebrow. No, it is a slam dunk. Scarlett, you could wring them dry in court. A lawsuit is messy, I said, leaning back in the leather chair. It requires discovery. It requires depositions. It gives them a platform. If I sue them, they get to go on local news and cry about how their rich, vindictive daughter is bullying them. They become martyrs. I turned my chair slightly to look out the window at the bridges spanning the Allegheny River. I do not want to sue them, Marianne, I said softly. I want to foreclose on them. Marianne smiled. It was a terrifyingly small smile. I thought you might say that. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a second document. This one was thick, bound with a heavy plastic cover. It landed on the desk with a satisfying weight. The financial deep dive you requested, she said. My forensic accountants have been busy since you called me on Saturday night. Scarlett, it is worse than we thought. It is not just mismanagement. It is a catastrophe. I pulled the dossier toward me and flipped it open. I had expected bad news. I had expected debt, but I had not expected the sheer scale of the rot. "Walk me through it," I said. "Let us start with the house," Marianne said, pointing to a section highlighted in yellow. "Your parents have treated that property like an ATM for the last decade. They have refinanced 4 times. They have a primary mortgage, a second mortgage, and a home equity line of credit that is maxed out." I ran my finger down the column of numbers. The principal balance was staggering. They owed more on the house than it was worth in the current market. "Where did the money go?" I asked. "Lifestyle maintenance," Marianne said. "Country club dues they could not afford, leased luxury cars, and of course, Bianca." She flipped the page to a section labeled Subject, Bianca Ross. "Your sister is a financial black hole," Marianne stated flatly. "She has 11 credit cards. All of them are near their limit. We found evidence of aggressive churn. She opens a new card to pay the minimum balance on the old one. It is a house of cards. Scarlet, one stiff breeze, and she defaults on everything." "She told me she was making money from brand deals," I said, though I knew it was a lie. "Her brand costs more than it earns," Marianne corrected. "She spends thousands on photographers, outfits, and travel to create the illusion of wealth. But here is the kicker." Marianne pointed to a line item on the 3rd page. "Look at the cosigner history." I looked, and then I stopped breathing for a second. There, on a loan application for a personal line of credit from 3 years ago, was a familiar address, my old address, the one I used for the Riverton charade. "They used my information," I whispered. "They listed you as a reference and used your rental history to bolster the application," Marianne said. "They did not forge your signature. They were smart enough to avoid direct jail time. But they used your credit stability, however small they thought it was. To create a profile of family solvency, they leveraged your steady paycheck myth to convince a lender that the family had a safety net." I closed the folder. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a cold, crystalline rage. The clapping. Suddenly, the image of my parents standing in that church, applauding as the wine dripped down my dress, made perfect sense. It wasn't just cruelty, it was confidence. They clapped because they thought they were untouchable. They clapped because they believed that no matter what they did to me, no matter how much they humiliated me, I would still be there on Sunday. I would still be the dutiful, pathetic daughter who handed over $700 to fix the driveway. I would still be the safety net they could lie about on loan applications. They didn't think they were burning a bridge. They thought they were just hazing the pledge. They assumed I would clean up the mess, pay the dry cleaning bill, and apologize for making a scene. "They think they own me," I said, my voice barely audible. "They think you are an asset," Marianne corrected. "A low-yield, reliable asset, one they can depreciate at will." She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of the hunt. "But here's the good news," she said. "Because they are so over-leveraged, they are exposed, vulnerable." Marianne pulled a single sheet of paper from the back of the file. "I have a contact at Iron City Savings and Loan," she said. "They hold the paper on your parents' second mortgage and the note on Bianca's SUV, the one she just leased. The bank is looking to offload a bundle of distressed debt before the end of the quarter. They want to clean up their balance sheet." I looked at the document. It was a notice of sale of distressed assets. "The bank considers these loans toxic," Marianne explained. "They are non-performing. The bank doesn't want to deal with the foreclosure process. It is expensive and time-consuming. They would rather sell the debt to a private equity firm for pennies on the dollar and take the tax write-off." "Can we buy it?" I asked. "We can buy the whole bundle," Marianne said. "My team can set up a special purpose vehicle, a shell company. Let us call it Red Vengeance Holdings? No, let us be subtle. Karma Capital. Keep it professional," I said, though a dark smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Use the standard acquisition structure. No names, just an LLC. If we buy the debt," Marianne continued, "we become the creditor. We step into the shoes of the bank. We hold the mortgage. We hold the car note. And if they miss a payment? I asked. They have already missed 2, Marianne said. They are technically in default right now. The bank just hasn't pulled the trigger because they have been lenient, but as the new note holder, you are under no obligation to be lenient. You can demand full repayment immediately. It is called an acceleration clause. I stared at the city below. I imagined my parents sitting in their living room right now, probably laughing about the wedding, drinking wine they bought on credit, thinking they had won. They had no idea that the ground beneath their feet was about to be sold to the daughter they despised. How much? I asked. To buy the debt bundle? About $400,000, Marianne said. It is a discount. The face value is over $800,000. $400,000. It was a significant sum. It was the price of a small house. But it was also the price of my freedom. Do it, I said. Marianne nodded and uncapped her pen. I will have the papers drawn up by noon. We can close by tomorrow. You will own their house and Bianca's car before dinner time on Tuesday. Wait, I said. Marianne paused. Yes? I want to make sure the timing is perfect, I said. Bianca is going to post that video. I know she is. She is editing it right now. She is waiting for prime time. She will probably post it tonight, Marianne agreed, to maximize the Monday evening traffic. Good, I said. Let her post it. Let her think she has launched her career. I want her to feel that high. I stood up and walked to the window. I placed my hand against the cool glass. I don't just want to evict them, Marianne, I said. I want to dismantle the lie. I want them to understand that the maintenance girl didn't just win the lottery. I want them to understand that I built the machine that is crushing them. We will serve the notices via courier, Marianne said, taking notes rapidly. Certified mail is too slow. We will use a process server, personal delivery. Make sure the return address on the envelope is the holding company, I said. Don't let them see my name. Not yet. I want them to sweat. I want them to call the number on the notice and get a voicemail. And then? And then, I said, turning back to her. When they are panicked, when they are desperate, when they realize they have nowhere to go, they will call me. They will call Scarlett the janitor to borrow money to pay off the scary new bank. And you will say no, Marianne surmised. No, I said. I will say yes. I will tell them I can help. I will invite them to dinner to discuss it. Marianne's eyes widened. You are going to meet them? I am going to buy them dinner, I said. At the Summit, the most expensive restaurant in town. Why? Because, I said, picking up my purse and the dossier of their ruin. I want to see their faces when I put the deed to their house on the table instead of a check. You are ruthless. Scarlett, Marianne said. It was a compliment. I learned from the best, I replied. My family taught me everything I know about cruelty. I just added efficiency. I walked to the door. Execute the purchase, Marianne, I said. Buy it all. The house, the car, the credit card debt if you can get it. I want to own every inch of their financial existence. Consider it done, she said. I walked out of the office and into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I checked my phone. Bianca had just posted a teaser on her story. A blurry photo of red wine in a glass with the caption, Oops, big drama coming soon. Stay tuned. I liked the post. It was the only warning she was going to get. The acquisition of my family's destruction did not happen with a bang or a scream. It happened with a silent, digital handshake across a secure server at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. I sat in my home office, the real one with the mahogany desk and the view of the garden, not the cramped corner of the fake apartment I had rented for the show. On my screen, the wire transfer confirmation blinked green. Transaction complete. Amount, $385,000. Beneficiary, Iron City Savings and Loan. Originator, Cobalt Horizon Holdings, LLC. It was done, in the eyes of the law. The mortgage on my parents' 4-bedroom colonial house in the suburbs and the note on Bianca's white Range Rover Velar no longer belonged to a bank. They belonged to a shell company registered in Delaware, which was wholly owned by another entity, which was ultimately controlled by me. I did not feel a rush of adrenaline. I felt the cold, precise satisfaction of a puzzle piece clicking into place. This was business. Standard corporate practice. When a company is failing, you acquire its debt to control its assets. My family was a failing company. I was simply the hostile takeover artist. "The paperwork is filed," Marianne Hart texted me a moment later. "Notices are out for delivery. They are aggressive. We are not asking for monthly payments. We are exercising the acceleration clause. We are demanding the full principal balance due to material breach of contract and insolvency risk. They have 30 days to pay the full amount, or we foreclose." "Perfect," I typed back. "Let me know when the courier drops them." I leaned back in my chair and picked up my phone. I switched accounts, logging into a burner Instagram profile I used to monitor market trends. And my sister. Bianca had been busy. She had posted the reel 20 minutes ago. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. The video started with a slow-motion clip of the accident, the exact moment the red wine left the glass and collided with my white silk bodice. She had edited it to look chaotic, adding a blurring effect to suggest sudden movement. Then, it cut to her face, recorded in her car, looking fresh-faced and somber with just the right amount of highlighter on her cheekbones. "Guys," she whispered into the camera, looking down and then up through her lashes. "Yesterday was intense. I feel so terrible about the accident at my sister's wedding. I was just so emotional, and I stumbled. I am heartbroken, but honestly, the way she reacted, it was so cold. Like, she didn't even cry. She just stared at me. Family is so complicated. You know? Send love. We are trying to heal," the caption read. "Sometimes love is messy, and sometimes, so is the wine." Wedding fails sisterhood. Real life. Ops healing. The comments were already rolling in. "OMG, she sounds like a nightmare bride. You poor thing. Accidents happen. Why was she so cold? That is suspicious." She was controlling the narrative, just as I predicted. She was painting me as the ice queen and herself as the clumsy, well-meaning victim. She was mining our family trauma for engagement metrics. I stared at the screen, watching the likes tick up. 1,500. "Enjoy it, Bianca," I whispered to the empty room. "That is the most expensive post you will ever make." I checked the time. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The process server was scheduled to arrive at my parents' house at 4. I spent the next 3 hours reviewing logistics reports for Steelbridge. I approved a new route for a kidney transplant transport. I negotiated a fuel surcharge with a vendor in Ohio. I worked with the steady, rhythmic efficiency that had built my fortune, all while a second clock ticked down in the back of my mind. At 4:12 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the courier service. Status, delivered, signed for by Diane Ross. 2 minutes later. Another notification. Status, delivered, apartment 4B, tape to door, verified resident presence. The trap was sprung. I put my phone on the desk and waited. I knew the sequence of events that was happening across town. My mother would be opening the thick, rigid envelope. She would be expecting a wedding photo, or perhaps a thank you note, or maybe a bill she could ignore. Instead, she was pulling out a document on heavy legal bond paper with the header, Cobalt Horizon Holdings, LLC. She was reading the words, Notice of Default and Immediate Demand for Payment. She was seeing the number at the bottom of the page, the total payoff amount for the house, plus interest, plus fees, $260,000, due immediately. Across the city, Bianca was pulling a similar envelope off her door. She was reading that her brand investment, the Range Rover, was now the property of a faceless holding company that was demanding the full lease value of $70,000 or immediate surrender of the vehicle. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. My phone rang. The caller ID said, Mom. I took a deep breath. I let my shoulders slump. I pitched my voice up an octave. injecting a tremor of anxiety into my throat. I answered on the fourth ring. Hello? I sounded small. I sounded like the daughter who scraped by on minimum wage. Scarlett! My mother's voice wasn't just loud. It was a shriek. She sounded breathless, frantic, and furious all at once. You need to come over here, now. Mom, what is wrong? I am at work. I can't just leave. To hell with your job, she screamed. We are being scammed. Someone is trying to steal the house. What? I asked, feigning confusion. What do you mean? We just got a letter, she yelled. Some company I have never heard of, Cobalt something. They say they bought our mortgage from the bank. They say we owe the whole thing. Scarlett, the whole amount. $200,000. They say we have 30 days to pay or get out. That doesn't sound right, I stammered. Did you call the bank? Your father is on the phone with the bank now, she cried. But they are useless. They said they sold the distressed asset bundle yesterday. They sold us, Scarlett, like we are cattle. I heard my father roaring in the background. I will sue you. Do you know who I am? I will have your job. Mom, calm down, I said. Maybe it is a mistake. It is not a mistake. It is a nightmare. She snapped. And Bianca just called. They got her too. They are threatening to take her car tonight. Tonight. Scarlett, she has an event tomorrow. Oh no, I said. That is terrible. Terrible? It is criminal. She paused, and I could hear the gears shifting in her head. The panic was turning into calculation. Scarlett, you need to help us. Me? I asked. Mom, I don't have $200,000. I have rent to pay. Don't give me that poor-mouth garbage right now, she hissed. You have that fiancé, Evan. He has money. He paid for that ridiculous wedding, didn't he? He wasted $10,000 on a party that got ruined anyway. He can write a check. Evan is really mad about the wedding. Mom, I said softly. He won't give me money for this. Make him, she commanded. Cry, beg, do whatever you have to do. We cannot lose this house. Scarlett, where would we go? We are your parents. I don't know, I said, letting my voice break. I am scared to ask him. You are useless, she spat. Fine, if you won't ask him, bring whatever you have. You have savings. I know you do. You have that overtime money. I have a little bit, I lied. Maybe 5,000? 5,000 won't even cover the interest, she screamed. Then she stopped. Bring it anyway. We need a retainer for a lawyer. We are going to fight this. We are going to sue this Cobalt company into the ground. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. She wanted to use my money to hire a lawyer to sue me. Okay, I said. Okay, I will try to help, but I can't talk right now. My supervisor is looking at me. I think he's going to write me up for being on the phone. I don't care about your supervisor. Mom, stop, I said, trying to sound desperate. I can't lose this job. Look, let's meet. Tonight. We can sit down and look at the papers. Maybe I can figure something out. Fine, she snapped. Come to the house. 7 o'clock. Bring the checkbook. No, I said quickly. Not the house. It is too stressful there. And Evan is home. If I leave to go to your house, he will know. He will stop me. Then where? Let's meet for dinner, I suggested. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can talk strategy without Evan knowing. We are not going to Applebee's. Scarlett, she said with disgust. I need a drink. A real drink. How about the Gilded River? I proposed. There was a silence on the line. The Gilded River was the most exclusive restaurant in Pittsburgh. It was perched on the edge of Mount Washington, overlooking the confluence of the three rivers. It was the kind of place where a steak cost $90 and the waiters wore white gloves. It was the kind of place my parents pretended they could afford, but hadn't stepped foot in for 5 years. The Gilded River? My mother's voice changed instantly. The panic receded, replaced by the greedy, shallow excitement of a social climber. You can get a reservation there? I think Evan has a standing reservation on Tuesdays for his clients. I lied. I can steal it. He won't know. Do it, she said. 7:30, and tell Bianca. She is a wreck. She needs a good meal. Okay, I said. 7:30. I will see you there. I hung up. I exhaled a long, slow breath. The performance was exhausting, but it was necessary. I needed them out of their element. I needed them in a public place, surrounded by wealth, feeling entitled and safe, right before I dropped the guillotine. I texted Evan. It is on. Dinner at the Gilded River, 7:30. Wear the navy suit. We are going to look sharp. He replied instantly, I am ready. Did they take the bait? Hook, line, and sinker. I typed. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Bianca. Mom said we are going to the Gilded River? Finally, about time you stepped up. Make sure you bring the credit card, the black one you flashed at the dress shop. I am not eating chicken fingers. I need the Wagyu. And I am ordering a bottle of Dom to calm my nerves. This day has been literal hell. I stared at the message. The audacity was almost impressive. She was facing the repossession of her car and the homelessness of our parents. Yet her primary concern was ensuring she could order the most expensive beef on the menu at my expense. She believed, with absolute certainty, that I was the safety net. She believed that no matter how much she abused me, I would pay for the privilege of being in her presence. She thought the black card was Evan's. She thought I was stealing a reservation from him to comfort her. She had no idea that the black card and the holding company that was repossessing her life were funded by the same bank account. I didn't reply to her text. I went to my closet. I pushed aside the gray cardigans and the scuffed boots. I reached into the back, into the garment bag I kept for board meetings and investor galas. I pulled out a dress. It wasn't white. It was black. A sharp, structural sheath dress that looked like armor. I pulled out my Louboutin heels, the ones with the red soles that looked like blood when I walked. I was done playing the mouse. Tonight, for the first time in my life, I was going to show them the lion. I checked the folder Marianne had prepared for me. It contained the copies of the debt instruments, the transfer of ownership documents, and a single, crisp legal agreement entitled Forbearance and Asset Surrender Terms. I slid the folder into my leather tote bag. I walked downstairs to where Evan was waiting. He looked dashing in his suit, but his eyes were hard. He was ready. You look dangerous, he said, kissing my cheek. I am, I said. Let's go buy my family dinner. It is the last meal they are ever going to enjoy. We drove to the restaurant in my car this time, a sleek, black sedan that I usually kept garaged when visiting them. As we wound our way up the mountain, the city lights twinkling below us, I felt a strange sense of calm. Most revenge stories are about passion. They are about screaming and throwing things. My revenge was about paperwork. It was about interest rates and maturity dates. It was about the undeniable, crushing weight of contractual obligation. They wanted to run the family? Fine. I just bought the company. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor of the Union Trust building, where the Gilded River occupied the penthouse, was a study in silence. The doors were polished brass, reflecting a version of me that my family had never seen. I was wearing the black structural sheath dress I had pulled from the back of my closet, paired with the red-soled heels that clicked against the marble floor with the authority of a metronome. Beside me, Evan stood in his navy suit, his face composed into a mask of polite indifference. We were exactly on time, 7:30 in the evening. In the world I actually inhabited, the world of logistics and high-stakes negotiation, punctuality was a currency in my family's world. Punctuality was a suggestion, usually ignored in favor of making an entrance, but tonight, they were early. The maitre d', a man with a face like a stone gargoyle who knew me by my real name but had been instructed to play along, nodded discreetly as we approached. Your party is waiting at table 4, By the window, he said softly. They have already ordered a bottle of Dom Perignon. Of course they have, I said. Put it on my tab, but do not bring a second bottle unless I signal. We walked through the dining room. The restaurant was a cavern of hushed conversations, clinking crystal, and the smell of truffle oil. The view from the floor-to-ceiling windows showed the three rivers of Pittsburgh converging in the darkness. Outlined by the gold and amber lights of the city, I saw them before they saw me. They were seated at the best table in the house, framed against the skyline. They did not look like people who had received foreclosure notices 4 hours ago. They did not look like a family on the brink of ruin. They looked like winners. My mother, Diane, was wearing her vintage Chanel jacket, the one she had bought 10 years ago during a good month and had refused to sell even when the electricity was shut off. She was laughing, her head thrown back, holding a flute of champagne that cost $60 a glass. My father, Mark, was leaning back in his chair, one arm draped over the backrest, looking like a king surveying his kingdom. He was wearing his best suit, the pinstriped one, and his face was flushed with the confidence of a man who believes he has found a fresh vein of gold to mine. And Bianca was glowing. She was wearing a silver slip dress that shimmered like mercury. She was holding her phone up, filming the champagne bottle in the ice bucket, narrating something to her followers. She looked smug. She looked untouchable. They were celebrating. They truly believed that I was coming here to surrender. They thought the maintenance girl had scraped together her savings, or bullied her fiancé, and was bringing a check to make the scary letters go away. We reached the table. Well, Bianca said, looking up without putting her phone down. Look who finally decided to show up. And wow, Scarlett, you actually dressed up. Did you rent that? She gestured vaguely at my outfit with her champagne glass. Hello, Bianca, I said, sliding into the empty chair across from her. Evan sat beside me. You look nice, Scarlett, my mother said, though her eyes immediately dropped to my hands, checking for a checkbook or an envelope. A little severe with the black. Maybe it is a celebration, not a funeral. Is it a celebration? Evan asked, unfolding his napkin. I thought this was a crisis meeting. It is a solution meeting, my father corrected, his voice booming slightly too loud for the room. And we celebrate solutions. Garçon, pour them a drink. A waiter appeared instantly, filling our glasses. I did not touch mine. I watched the bubbles rise and burst, a perfect metaphor for their delusions. So, Bianca said, picking up her menu, I am starving. I have been dealing with so much stress today. The engagement on my sad sister post is insane. By the way, 20,000 likes in 3 hours. Brands are already DMing me offering sympathy packages. I might get a free spa day out of your little tantrum. Scarlett, she smirked, looking over the top of the menu. You are welcome, I said calmly. I am thinking the Wagyu, Bianca announced, and maybe the lobster thermidor as a starter, since Scarlett is treating. She looked at me, challenging me to object. Order whatever you want, I said. My father grunted approval. Good girl. I will have the ribeye, rare, and bring the seafood tower for the table. They ordered with the voracious appetite of the condemned. They ordered oysters, caviar, appetizers that cost more than my weekly grocery budget in my fake life. It was grotesque. It wasn't hunger. It was entitlement. They were eating expensive food not because they enjoyed it, but because they could, because someone else was paying. When the food arrived, the conversation turned, as it always did, to their victimhood. The nerve of that bank, my mother said, dissecting a prawn. Selling our mortgage to some vulture fund. Cobalt Holdings? Who are they? Probably some offshore scam artists. I bet we can sue them for harassment. We will do more than sue them, my father said, chewing a piece of steak with his mouth half open. Once we pay them off, with the money Scarlett has brought, I am going to file a complaint with the Consumer Protection Bureau. No one treats Mark Ross like a delinquent. Exactly, Bianca said. She raised her glass. A toast. We all looked at her. To Staines, she said, looking directly at me, her eyes glittering with malice. And to the girl who cleans them up, thanks for always knowing your place. Scarlett? She laughed. My mother joined in. A tittering, nervous sound. My father chuckled. To family, my father added, clinking his glass against Bianca's. And to liquidity. I felt Evan stiffen beside me. His hand moved under the table, gripping my knee. He wanted to speak. He wanted to shatter the glass in their faces. I placed my hand over his. Wait. My touch said, let them eat. I barely touched my food. I pushed a piece of sea bass around my plate, watching them devour the feast. I watched the grease shine on my father's chin. I watched the way Bianca checked her reflection in her spoon between bites. I watched my mother signal the waiter for more wine, her movements jerky and imperious. They were disgusting, and they were mine. So, my father said, wiping his mouth with the linen napkin and tossing it onto the table. He tapped his heavy gold watch. We need to wrap this up. I have a meeting in the morning with my lawyer to discuss the suit against the bank. Eat faster. Scarlett, then write the check. We have dessert coming, Bianca complained. Pack it to go, my father ordered. We need to get the funds into the account. The letter said immediate payment. I want to wire it tonight so I can sleep. He looked at me, his eyes hard and expectant. You brought it, right? He asked. The 5,000 you said? And the rest from wherever you get it. He glanced at Evan, implying that I had stolen or begged the money from him. I didn't bring a check, I said. The table went still. Bianca stopped mid-chew. My mother froze with her glass halfway to her mouth. My father's face turned a shade of purple that matched the cabernet he had been drinking. Excuse me, my father said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. I said I didn't bring a check, I repeated. My voice was steady, calm, and conversational. Scarlett, my mother hissed, leaning across the table. Do not play games. We are talking about the house. We are talking about your sister's car. Did you bring the money or not? I brought a solution, I said. What does that mean? Bianca asked, her voice shrill. Cash? A wire transfer? I don't care how you do it. Just pay the bill. My car is parked downstairs. If a tow truck shows up while I am at the Gilded River, I will literally die. Relax, I said. The waiter arrived at that moment, sensing the tension but bound by the ritual of service. He placed a leather folder on the table between us. The bill. It sat there, black and innocuous. My mother stared at it, then nudged it toward me with her index finger. It was a gesture of absolute command. Pay this, then pay the rest. Get that, my father muttered, and then let's go. We will go to your apartment and get the money. I looked at the bill. I didn't open it. I knew it was over $800. I reached down into my leather tote bag. The silence at the table stretched. It became thin and brittle. They were watching my hand. They were expecting the black titanium card. They were expecting the capitulation. I let them wait. I let the silence become uncomfortable. I let them hear the ambient noise of the restaurant, the laughter of other tables, the jazz music, the clinking of ice, and realize that they were not part of that joy. Then, I pulled my hand out. I was not holding a wallet. I was holding a thick, black legal folder. It was bound with a red elastic cord. It was heavy. I set it on the table. Thud. It landed right next to the dinner bill. The sound was heavy, final. It sounded like a judge's gavel hitting the bench. Bianca's smile falters. The smirk that had been plastered on her face all evening slipped, revealing the confusion underneath. What is that? She asked. My father tried to laugh it off, but the sound caught in his throat. What is this? Your resume? I told you, Scarlett, unless you are applying to be my bank, I am not interested. But my mother knew. I saw her eyes dart from the folder to my face, then back to the folder. She recognized the weight of the paper. She recognized the binding. She had seen folders like this before, during the refinancings, during the loan applications, Deep down, in the lizard brain that governs survival, she recognized paperwork as danger. "Scarlet," she whispered, and her voice trembled for real this time. "What is in the folder?" I rested my hands on top of the black binder. I looked at each of them in turn. I looked at Bianca, the viral victim. I looked at Mark, the king of debt. I looked at Diane, the enforcer of guilt. "You asked for help with the creditor," I said softly. "Yes," my father said, impatient again. "We need to pay them off. Who are they? Who is this Cobalt Horizon?" I opened the folder. The first page was the assignment of debt agreement. The second page was the title transfer. I spun the folder around so it faced them. "Read the signature line," I said. My father squinted. He leaned in, his eyes scanning the dense legal text. He skipped the paragraphs of jargon and went straight to the bottom of the page, where the authorized representative for Cobalt Horizon Holdings, LLC, had signed. His face went pale. The color drained out of him so fast it looked like a magic trick. "No," he whispered. "What?" Bianca demanded. "What does it say?" My father looked up at me. His eyes were wide, terrified, and for the first time in his life, utterly powerless. "It says," he choked, "it says Scarlett Ross." "What?" my mother shrieked. She snatched the folder from him. She stared at the signature. "I don't understand," she stammered. "Why is your name on the bank's papers?" "Because I am the bank," I said. I picked up my glass of water and took a sip. It was cool and crisp. "I own Cobalt Horizon Holdings," I said, my voice cutting through their confusion like a scalpel. "And as of 10 o'clock this morning, Cobalt Horizon Holdings owns the mortgage on your house and the note on Bianca's car." Bianca dropped her fork. It clattered against the china, a loud, jarring noise that made the couple at the next table look over. "You," she stammered, "you bought our debt?" "I bought my piece," I corrected. "But you are a janitor," my mother yelled, forgetting where she was. "You work at Riverton. You don't have this kind of money." "Riverton was a costume. Mom," I said. "Just like the struggling artist act Bianca plays is a costume. The difference is, my bank account is real." I leaned forward. "I own it all," I said. "The roof over your head, the car you drive, the credit card debt you are hiding from Dad." I looked at Bianca. "And I am not here to write a check to save you," I said. "I am here to discuss the terms of your surrender." The silence that followed was not the silence of a church or a library. It was the vacuum of space. It was the silence of a world imploding. My father slumped in his chair. My mother looked like she was going to be sick. Bianca just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish on a dock. I sat back, smoothing the napkin on my lap. "Now," I said, gesturing to the seafood tower they had barely made a dent in. "Eat up. You are going to need the energy for the move." The silence in the restaurant was not peaceful. It was heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. My father, Mark, was staring at the folder I had placed on the table as if it were a radioactive isotope. My mother, Diane, was clutching her pearls, her eyes darting between my face and the black binder. Bianca was still holding her fork, frozen, a piece of lobster hovering halfway to her mouth. "I didn't bring money," I repeated, letting the words hang in the cool air of the dining room. "I brought ownership." I reached out with a steady hand and flipped the folder open. I did not shove it at them. I slid it across the white tablecloth with the precision of a blackjack dealer distributing cards. The papers fanned out slightly, revealing the dense, intimidating headers of legal instruments. "What you are looking at," I said, pointing to the top document, "is the mortgage transfer agreement, and underneath that is the assignment of collection rights, and below that is the creditor authority grant." My father finally found his voice. It was a strangled, wet sound. This is nonsense. You cannot just buy a mortgage. Scarlett, you are a janitor. You scrub floors." He laughed then, A desperate, sputtering chuckle. "This is a prank, right? Did Evan put you up to this? Is this some kind of Photoshop joke?" "Look at the signature line." "Dad," I said softly. He squinted at the bottom of the page, where the bank officer's signature sat next to the buyer's signature. "Authorized representative for Cobalt Horizon Holdings," he read, his voice shaking. Then his eyes moved to the name printed in bold, black ink underneath the signature. Scarlett Ross, Principal Controller. "No," he whispered. He looked up at me, and the arrogance that had defined his face for my entire life began to crack. "How?" "Cobalt Horizon is my company," I said. "It is a holding entity for my assets, and as of this morning, its primary assets are the 4-bedroom house you are currently living in and the white Range Rover Bianca is currently driving." Bianca dropped her fork. It hit the plate with a loud clatter that made the couple at the next table turn and stare. "You can't afford this," she stammered. Her face had gone pale, her makeup standing out like a mask on her skin. You drive a beat-up sedan. You wear polyester uniforms. You beg us for money every Sunday." I looked at her. I looked at the sister who had mocked me, bullied me, and tried to destroy my wedding for internet clout. "You never bothered to look." "Bianca," I answered softly. "You saw the uniform, so you stopped looking. You never asked why I didn't have a manager. You never asked why I didn't complain about my feet hurting. You saw what you wanted to see because it made you feel superior. But the money," my mother gasped. "Where did you get the money?" "I built a logistics empire while you were busy refinancing your vanity," I said. Before they could respond, before they could launch into the inevitable denial or screaming match, a shadow fell across the table. Marianne Hart, my attorney, stepped into the light. She was wearing a charcoal suit that looked like it was cut from steel. She was not holding a menu. She was holding a large, sealed manila envelope. "Good evening," Marianne said. Her voice was devoid of warmth. It was pure business. "Who is this?" my father demanded, trying to summon his old bluster. "This is a private dinner." "I am Ms. Ross's legal counsel," Marianne said. She placed the envelope on the table next to the black folder. "And this is your formal enforcement timeline." "Enforcement?" my mother squeaked. "We are exercising the acceleration clause on the mortgage and the auto loan," Marianne explained calmly. "You are in default. We are not interested in a payment plan. We are not interested in negotiations. You have 30 days to vacate the property. The eviction notice has been filed with the county clerk." "30 days?" my father roared. Standing up, "I have lived there for 20 years. You cannot kick me out." "Actually, we can," Marianne said, not even blinking. "The terms of your loan were quite specific about insolvency, and since you have missed 3 payments, the new owner, Ms. Ross, has the right to demand immediate possession." "Sit down, Mark," I said. "You are making a scene." He looked around. People were staring. The waiter was hovering nervously. My father sank back into his chair. Defeated, at that exact moment, a cell phone began to ring. It was a jarring, cheerful pop song, Bianca's ringtone. She looked at the screen. It is the finance company." "Answer it," I said. She picked it up, her hand trembling. "Hello?" We watched her face crumble. It was like watching a building demolition in slow motion. Her eyes went wide, filled with panic. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. But I am at dinner," she cried into the phone. "You can't do that. I have the keys right here." No, wait." She lowered the phone slowly. She looked at me with sheer terror. "They are towing it," she whispered. "They said the ownership of the note changed hands today, and the new owner flagged it for immediate repossession due to credit risk. They are taking it from the valet stand right now." "I know," I said. "I authorized the tow order at 6 o'clock. "My car!" she screamed. "How am I supposed to get home?" "Uber is very reliable," I suggested. "Or maybe you can take the bus. It builds character. You are a monster, my mother hissed. Doing this to your own sister? Over a dress? Over a stupid wedding dress? It is not about the dress, Mom, Evan said. He spoke for the first time since we sat down. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and turned the screen toward them. It is about this, Evan said. On the screen, a video was playing. It was not Bianca's edited, blurry accident reel. It was the high-definition footage from the church's security feed and our videographer's wide-angle lens. The angle was perfect. It showed Bianca clearly. It showed her looking around to make sure no one was watching. It showed her reaching into the flower arrangement to grab the hidden glass. It showed the deliberate, calculated way she threw the wine. Not a slip, not a stumble, but a throw, and the audio. The audio was crystal clear. I hope you got the angle right, Bianca, because this video is going to cost you everything. And then, the aftermath. The video showed my parents standing up. It showed the clapping. It showed the laughter. This is trending on Twitter right now, Evan said, his voice cold. Top 10 in the country. The hashtag is Mean Girl Wedding. And look at your notifications. Bianca, I added. Bianca grabbed her phone again. She opened her social media apps. Oh my God, she gasped. Skin Glow just dropped you. I narrated as she scrolled. I got the alert on my tracker. Lux Travel just issued a statement saying they don't partner with bullies. Your agency? They sent an email 5 minutes ago terminating your representation. No, Bianca moaned. No, no, no. This is my career. This is my life. You wanted a viral moment, I said. You wanted the world to see you. Well, they see you. Bianca, they see exactly who you are. My mother looked at the phone, then at the legal papers, then at me. The reality was finally settling in. The house was gone. The car was gone. The reputation was gone. She did the only thing she knew how to do. She reached for me. She grabbed my hand across the table. Her grip was tight, desperate, her nails digging into my skin. Scarlett, she said, her voice dropping to a wobbly, tearful plea. Baby, please, stop this. We are family. You can't do this to blood. We raised you. We love you. Do you? I asked. Of course we do, she cried, tears streaming down her face. Real tears this time. Tears of fear. We made mistakes, okay? We were stressed, but you have to forgive. That is what family does. We forgive. You can't leave us on the street. You can't ruin your sister. Please, Scarlett, for the family. I looked at her hand on mine. It was the hand that had slapped me when I was 10 because I dropped a plate. It was the hand that had taken my contest money. It was the hand that had waved a bill in my face and demanded payment for my existence. I didn't pull away angrily. I didn't jerk back. I reached over with my other hand and gently peeled her fingers off my skin, one by one. It was deliberate. It was like peeling dirty tape off a clean wall. I placed her hand back on the table, away from me. Family isn't DNA, I said, my voice quiet but ringing with finality. Family is behavior, and your behavior just became a bill. I stood up. The chair scraped softly against the floor. I am not paying for your dinner, I said. The Wagyu, the Dom Perignon, the seafood tower, you ordered it, you pay for it. We don't have any money, my father shouted, panic rising in his voice. The bill is over $1,000. Then I guess you will have to wash dishes, I said. I hear they are hiring. It is honest work. You might learn something. I signaled the waiter. He hurried over. Check for table 4, I said. Split it. My fiancé and I will pay for our 2 waters and the salads we didn't eat. The rest belongs to them. I handed him my black titanium card. He ran it, handed it back, and I signed the receipt with a flourish. Marianne, I said to my lawyer, make sure they get the keys to the courier by Friday. I want the house empty and broom swept by the 1st of the month. I have contractors coming in to renovate. Understood, Marianne said, closing her briefcase. Renovate? My mother whispered. You are going to live there? No, I said. I am going to sell it. I just need to get the smell of hypocrisy out of the carpets first. I took Evan's arm. We turned our backs on them. Scarlett! Bianca screamed after me. You can't leave us here. They will call the police if we don't pay. I didn't look back. I walked out of the restaurant, my heels clicking on the marble, the sound of their ruin fading behind me. Epilogue. 6 months later, the morning light in my kitchen is soft and unfiltered. I sit at the island, drinking coffee from a mug that didn't cost a fortune but holds heat perfectly. Evan is across from me, reading the paper. The house is quiet, not the silence of tension, but the silence of peace. My phone buzzes. It is a notification from a real estate agent. Sold, 1400 Oak Street, my parents' old house. It sold for a profit. I donated the proceeds to a charity that helps young women start their own businesses. It felt like the right kind of laundering, washing the greed out of the money and turning it into hope. I don't hear from them anymore. Marianne handled the restraining orders with her usual efficiency. They are allowed to contact me only through legal counsel, and since legal counsel costs money, they are silent. But I know where they are. I know my parents moved into a small, 2-bedroom apartment in a neighboring town. My father had to come out of retirement to work as a greeter at a hardware store. My mother had to sell her jewelry. And Bianca, I saw her last week. I didn't mean to, but I was driving through the city and stopped at a red light. There was a coffee shop on the corner, not a trendy one, but a chain place that serves commuters in a hurry. Through the window, I saw a woman wiping down a table. She was wearing a green apron. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, looking frayed. She looked tired. She looked like her feet hurt. It was Bianca. She wasn't filming herself. There was no ring light. There was just a rag, a table, and a customer yelling at her because his latte was cold. I watched her apologize. I watched her lower her head, take the abuse, and go back behind the counter to remake the drink. For a second, I felt a twinge of pity. But then I remembered the wine. I remembered the clapping. I remembered the text demanding the Wagyu beef, while I was supposedly facing ruin. Bianca was finally living the life she had mocked me for. She was learning, 1 8-hour shift at a time, that there is no shame in labor. She was learning that the uniform doesn't make you small. The person inside it does. She was learning that dignity wasn't about the price of your shoes. It was about standing on your own 2 feet. I didn't honk. I didn't wave. The light turned green. I pressed the gas, and I drove forward, into a future that belonged entirely to me. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed the journey of Scarlett and her ultimate revenge. Please comment down below and tell me where you are listening from. I love seeing our community grow across the world. And if you want more stories like this, please subscribe to the Monica Revenge Stories channel, like this video, and hit that like button so this story can be heard by even more people. Your support means everything.